till I hear the echoes of the hill. And my sweet Lily Bell, my little hillbilly gal, calling from the echoes of the hill. Now when I left my pappy said, now don't do nothing wrong. I recall my mammy saying, Sonny, don't be long. So I know that someday I'll go wending my way back among the echoes of the hill. Now sometimes I wonder why I have to roam. Somehow my thoughts are wandering away, away back home. Now I miss the hills, the old folks, and my little sister Lou. I wonder if they miss me too. Now I'm a long way from home, from that blue mountain dome, till I hear the echoes of the hill. And my sweet Lily Bell, my little hillbilly gal, calling from the echoes of the hill. Now when I left, my pappy said, now don't do nothing wrong. I recall my mammy saying, Sonny, don't be long. So I know that someday I'll go wending my way back among the echoes of the hill.
Ooh, Franklin, hey,
Yeah.
it's nice to meet you.
Oh yeah, nice to meet you too.
Face to face, billions of miles away. You're in
Yeah.
Cleveland?
Yeah, Cleveland, Ohio.
Cool. Yeah. And I'm in
Zoom to
Olympia.
Zoom.
Yeah.
Olympia. Yeah, I've always wanted to go to Olympia. I've heard it's really cool.
I hear the same about Cleveland. I heard
Really?
it's, yeah. Um,
I think it's cool.
yeah. Did they change the name of the baseball team there yet?
Yeah, they have announced the new name. It changes at the beginning of next season.
Okay.
I guess it's officially the Indians are out because their season's over. So yeah, they'll be the Guardians next year, which is great.
Oh, okay. Cool. Yeah. I don't really follow baseball, but that's the first thing I think of. I think of
Hmm.
Cleveland. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I don't. I follow baseball a little bit just because I'm here and most of my friends do, but
Uh-huh.
I'm all for the exchanging of uh, any sort of indigenous appropriation
Yeah,
in like
yeah.
sports. I think they should change all that as soon as possible.
Definitely. It's like having names like that is just not nice these days. And you're all about nice.
Yeah,
That's one thing I know about you.
yeah,
um,
yeah,
your catchphrase. Be nice to
yeah.
people out there,
Uh huh.
which I hope I get
Yeah,
one of those out of you today. But
yeah. Be nice to people out there. I think it's important. I don't know why it became my catchphrase. It's like once you start doing a show for long enough, I'm sure as you know, like I don't know, one episode you say something and the next episode you say it again and then you're like, I'm going to keep saying that. Or you know what I mean? Like
yeah, yeah.
it's like everything about a radio show or podcast. I feel like when you start, you can't really have that much planned and then you start saying stuff and then it just kind of some things stick and some things don't and that's just kind of the nature of the beast.
Yeah, I don't have a catchphrase yet. I do have a sort of a motif that I return to if the vibe is right.
Mhm.
I'll ask my guests how they like their burger,
Oh, nice.
and I feel like you can, maybe learn something about a person
Yeah.
that way.
Is that like a I think you asked CW Stone King that, didn't you? Cuz I listened to that episode.
Oh yeah, he had a very colorful, thoughtful answer too
Yeah.
about the Hungry Jack
Oh,
burger
that's
in
right.
in
Yeah, cuz down
Australia
in Australia it's called Hungry Jacks.
instead of Burger King.
Yeah.
And man, he is not pleased with how sloppy those burgers are.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, he wears all white. I can't imagine he would be eating a lot of sloppy food at all.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So that we just heard a track by Edna Gibson that I do you know that song? Like, have you heard another recording of that tune?
I was literally just thinking about that as we were listening to it. I kind of I assume it's a cover or like an old folk song, but I'm not personally familiar with it, although it sounds familiar.
Yeah. So Edna is an interesting story, and I already sent you an email about it, so you've heard. But for the
Hmm.
listener, um, I was just on a little trip to Northern California. So drove down south from Olympia, and we saw this dilapidated little thrift store, and then behind the thrift store there was a barn, and there was just a big sign that said barn also open. So we just had to pull over and scope it out and see if maybe there's some records in there or something. Um, there's some like moldy Andy Williams LPs, nothing fancy, nothing to
Hmm.
get excited about. And then just a box of hand labeled tapes that mostly just said myself. And some of them in the same handwriting also said Edna Gibson. And we're like, whatever this is, we're taking it. So it was
Yeah.
like, I think they asked us for like 10 or $15 for the whole box. And we got back in the car and put it on. And damn, she's just this stylist who
Yeah.
recorded hours of country music by herself or with friends. And I couldn't find anything about her anywhere. I'm still digging. I still like try to research her. This is like over 10 years ago. It was close to 15 years ago that I found that tape.
Yeah, that's pretty lucky. I mean, considering the amount of music that's made and the amount of music that has been made, a lot of it is bad. And a lot of the stuff that you just randomly find on even like acetates or like stuff that's been pressed on vinyl that's hard to find is often bad.
Yeah.
So like the chances of finding just like a shoebox of cassettes in a barn and having it be like really good is like lottery level chances.
Yeah, totally. So that's my little excavation story. But Franklin, you're a full-time music excavator.
Yeah, I
As
guess
far as
so.
I know, you're a treasure hunter.
I
And
guess so. Yeah, I guess that's one way to put what I do. I always have trouble kind of explaining what I do or like what the show is, I guess, because I just think of myself as like a radio host who likes to play interesting music.
uh-huh.
Um, but yeah, I do specifically seek out stuff that's maybe hasn't been heard before, or at least hasn't been heard by the amount of people I get to play it for. And
Yeah.
in the country music world, although I do collect weird stuff of all genres, it's country became kind of just became my thing for whatever reason.
Yeah, it's nice and specific. And I think of your show as like a public service, really.
Oh, thanks.
Just like I feel like that's the thing that our shows have in common is like celebrating sort of underappreciated artists in music.
Yeah, definitely.
And if the similarities probably stop at that point, but
uh, yeah, it's one of the hurdles that I deal with that fortunately you mostly don't have to deal with is that I assume almost everyone I play on the show is uh, passed away. Or and if they are alive, the chances of getting a hold of them or the fact that they still want to talk about their music or play music is slim to none,
mm-hmm.
which is kind of a bummer because it's just a lot of information about everything regarding these recordings is going to the grave every single day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
And so even I've talked to some families and stuff of artists I've played or people have contacted me, and the families will have some information, but a lot of times these artists I play only have, I mean, a lot of them maybe only have 1 to 3 singles they released at most. And so a lot of times I'll talk to like their daughter or granddaughter or whatever, and I'll be like, man, I'd love to hear anything about your granddad's like music career. And then they'll be like, oh yeah, he was mostly a farmer, or like he worked in a factory, but like, yeah, he said he used to play shows when he was younger. Like he released a few things, but I never really heard him before. And it's
Oh
like,
wow.
it's almost like it's a hidden part of these people's lives that they tried to, maybe they tried to make it in music for like a couple of years, or they just, had a few songs they wanted to record and a few extra $100 or whatever. But a lot of these people are not like quote unquote musicians as far as like they were doing it as any sort of job. So,
Yeah. And like that used to be kind of a thing where people, they call it vanity records,
hmm
where people would just like want to have a record just for their own self-satisfaction. Um, and I feel like you might come across a handful of those, like especially like when someone's got just like a really plainly, like plain personal lyrics that are just like done in a very matter of fact, not very songwritery fashion.
yeah, definitely. There's a lot of that, and there's also a lot of covers of relatively popular songs that are done in kind of a ramshackle sort of way that's really endearing.
Hmm.
But yeah, there's the private press or vanity press sort of thing is basically, yeah, somebody, I wish I could find like old brochures. I don't know how much it costs, but back in the day, yeah, somebody could just save up probably not that much, maybe 100 or $200 from their
Yeah.
factory job, and go to a studio and record 2 or 3 tracks, probably with a backing band. They didn't even have to have a band.
Uh-huh.
And they just and then the studio would get it pressed for them, and they'd have 50 or 100 or 200 records to just give to their friends and family or whatever, or try to sell at a show. And
Yeah.
it's
Christmas
like these little,
presents.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like these little snapshots into like American history that if these records weren't around, these snapshots wouldn't exist, because the people who maybe saw them play are probably elderly or passed away, and this is just like the one document of that time.
Yeah. It's it's pretty special. We
Yeah,
and now we have TikTok.
yeah, now we have TikTok, and I don't know what it's like for people that are younger than us, um, but I was thinking the other day about how I still remember before the internet was like omnipresent, and
Hmm.
also before home recording was like very common.
Yeah.
um, but like I think it's hard for a lot of people, even my age. I'm 37, and so it's for people that are my age, or especially people that are like half or one generation younger than me, to really understand how difficult it was for even people in the 1950s to hear their own voices.
Yeah.
Like you might live and die without ever having heard a recording of your voice, and now we take it for granted that it's happening like all the time everywhere.
Yeah, you ever listen to any of those like home tapes from like the maybe like early 70s where like somebody's got a tape recorder for the first time and it's just them like talking into it to entertain themselves and hear it back? It's like, well, let's just see if this microphone works. Uh,
Oh, totally.
Tape letters that they would send to relatives and
Yeah,
stuff.
definitely. Yeah, I've run into a lot of stuff like that. And there's also those old, even older than that, are those like I forget the name of the disc, but like those like basically like cardboard plasticky discs.
Oh, Recordio.
Yeah, Recordex or Recordios. And
Yeah.
like I always, when I first started collecting, I'd always get those and drop a needle on them. But after a while, I was like, these almost all are just like somebody talking too far away from the microphone, or like wishing somebody happy birthday. And
Uh-huh.
it's cool. I want somebody to put in the time to archive those sorts of things, but I'm not that guy. But
Yeah, yeah.
like you always like look at those and think like, man, there could be like a fucking hidden gem song on here. But it's usually just somebody like being like, happy birthday, Jeffrey. Like we're
Yeah.
happy you're here. And we just like got this weird like record cutter thing from Sears.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious about how you got into doing Dollar Country. Um, First of all, can I tell you my maybe misguided idea of how I
Sure. I'd love
imagine
to
it
hear it. Yeah.
is that you're a truck driver
Okay.
and you travel around the country and anytime you see an antique shop or a yard sale or whatever, you pull over your truck, maybe you make your delivery a little bit late, but you have like a new box of records to flip through when you get back home. And then at the end of the week, you just throw it on the turntable, hit record, and send it out to the world.
Yeah,
Pretty accurate.
yeah. It's pretty much exactly how it started. I wish that would be awesome. I actually did think about becoming a truck driver at one point in my life, just because I like driving and I like
Uh-huh.
seeing the world, and I think that'd be kind of a cool way to get paid. But
Yeah.
that's not what I ended up doing. It started because I worked at a record store in Lawrence, Kansas, Love Garden Sounds, and I'd worked there for a while. I've been collecting records for, I mean, probably since I was like, records have always been around. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I just kind of always collected records. I started like collecting, like quote unquote collecting records, probably when I was like early 20s. Actually, like going to the record store and like looking through the bins and buying records and getting more into it and stuff. But music has always, like, it's weird to think of a time in my life when music wasn't one of the most important things in it. Um, so that kind of turned into this job at the record store. And once you work at a record store, you're surrounded by music all the time. You're always listening to music and you're collecting more and more records. And then I got slowly into 45s, which is everything I play on my show is a 45 or a 78. I don't play any LPs.
I noticed that. Okay.
And so I got into that. A buddy I worked with there named Cyrus was kind of my, I guess, mentor or teacher, because like the world of record digging is kind of like a subgenre of just like record nerddom. And so I started noticing that people would come in and look through the dollar bin at Love Garden and they'd pull out stuff that was like, I don't know, just like I put stuff in the dollar bin. One of my jobs was like to take stuff that didn't sell, put it in the dollar bin. So I just assumed everything in there sucked.
Uh-huh.
Like I thought it was like, oh, this is just indie rock stuff that didn't sell or whatever. But then I started looking through it and I would see these like country songs with kind of funny names or like songs about getting drunk or whatever.
Yeah.
And I started kind of putting them on and then putting on like some classic rock from the 70s, stuff kind of like slightly not like the super major airplay stuff. I'd be like, there's actually like for $1, for 50 cents a song, this is like a deal kind of.
Yeah.
And then from there, like Cyrus would, he collects soul records. He's been doing it for a long time. And so he was like, well, let's take a day and like drive to, from Kansas, you can drive to a few places that are like big old record stores you can dig all day. And so we'd take these day trips to St. Louis or up to Iowa or spend a day in Kansas City or whatever. And it just slowly became that country records were the ones that nobody gave a shit about. But also they had a lot of charm to them for me, even though I've not always been like a country music guy. But they just have this like American historic charm to me. And a lot of the recordings were kind of shitty and they were also cheap.
Yeah.
Nobody was collecting them. So it was kind of like they were just in abundance. And that's kind of what got me specifically into that. And then I started the show with maybe, I might have had 2 boxes of 45s, like maybe around 345s.
Uh-huh.
And I started the show because my radio kind of runs in my family. My uncle was into radio and I did radio at college, and then, yeah, it slowly just grew. And then, you know, you collect enough records, then you start having thousands of records and tens of thousands of records. And, you know, the things you want are more and more niche or more and more hard to find or more and more expensive. And then you get to where I am, where it's like, you know, I can find like an amazing record for $1, or I can spend $50 on a record and not even blink an eye about it, because it's like music just has that much value to me, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any like really like cherished and valuable records that you played on your show, or is it mostly like the cheapo? Like,
Yeah,
I mean,
I think probably I can uh I can modestly say I think that my show has probably gotten some other people interested in collecting dollar records, and also has kind of raised the price on some of the stuff that I specialize in,
yeah.
um, which is like kind of, a double-edged sword, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have some stuff that's worth some money now. I have some stuff that I don't know if it was always worth money or if it's worth money now because I've shared it. And then and then if you look around enough, I found some rockabilly stuff that's worth like a few $100 for $1 just because
no
if
one
you look,
knows. Yeah.
yeah, no one knows or the right collector didn't see it or, when you look around in enough dollar bins, you will find some stuff that's worth some money. It's just a matter of, it's not like, it's not a job that you should do to make money. But if you spend enough time doing it, you will find records that are worth money. So yeah, I have a few things that are worth like a few $100.
That's cool. I don't think I've ever justified paying more than $50 for an album, and I don't think I could spend that kind of money on a single unless it was like the only way I could even hear it.
Yeah,
because I mostly buy LPs. And it's exclusively because I want to listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
I got a few 145s, and it's like I'm a family man, so it's kind of like a lot of like time consuming to like go back and flip it over and keep that going. When you live in a circus.
Yeah.
So I'm a long player guy, but I definitely see the appeal of like, yeah, this is a song. It cost me 50 cents a track, and this is the only way you can have this song, and it's totally special.
Yeah. Well, so, as Cyrus told me early on, he was like, once you spend $50 on a single, the second time is a lot easier, and the 20th time you don't even think about it. Like. And that's totally true. Like once you break each of those barriers for buying a record, it's like the next time is like, oh, whatever, $50, that's fine. But like, it sounds ridiculous to people that don't have like collector brain, or there's a lot of collectors out there who are like super cheapskates who are like, I never pay more than $5 for anything. But for me, it's like, fuck, somebody else spent hours finding this 45 and then figuring out it was worth money and then posting it, and they live in the Pacific Northwest or whatever. I'm never going to be up there, so shit, $50 for this record that would spend me hundreds of hours to find, like that's kind of a deal if you think about it in those sort of terms.
Yeah it's very experiential,
but I agree that it is. I understand the viewpoint that spending that much on records is also not something everybody wants to do.
I wanted to share this track Tiger Woman. It's on Bogan Records, Square Dance label from Houston.
Oh, nice.
And I've actually never listened to this 45 at 45 RPM. Like every
just
time
33.
Every time I start it up, if I hit it on at 45, I'm just like, whoa, too fast. And I've never made it all the way through.
Is that the one you sent me?
Yeah.
The Shannonairs?
The Shannonairs with caller Chuck Bryant. And yeah, this is my first Square Dance record. I bought it in a thrift store in Houston. And I had a big stack of these. They all came with like a call sheet with all the the dance moves and everything. I was like, this is great. And I had like 100 of them. I was like, this will be great. I'll walk out of here like $20 or something. And they were $5 a piece.
Oh, geez.
They had thousands of them. And I'm like, they got to be trying to get rid of these. Nope, they were not. So I just got this one and another one called Pardon My Whiskers. It's also pretty good. But I don't know. I thought this tune's pretty special.
Yeah, I liked it. I enjoyed it. I thought it sounded really good at 33. I've spent a lot of time playing 45s at 33, and I feel like there's a sweet spot where it works both ways and doesn't sound weird.
Yeah. I noticed your YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Has almost exclusively that's what's happening.
Yeah, my personal one.
Yeah.
But yeah, that Square Dance Records is like another weird kind of subgenre within the world of 45 collecting. I don't know anybody who collects those. I mean, I kind of collect some country ones, but like I don't think anybody takes, I'm sure there's somebody, but that is one of the last frontiers of true record collecting, I think. Because in Texas, there's piles of them everywhere and nobody cares because they're almost always bad. They're not worth anything, and they're abundant, because back in the day, before digital and before CDs and probably before tapes, it was just easy to have, that's how you had to do square dancing if you didn't have a band. So
Yeah.
it was like they were born out of necessity. It wasn't like because they had another option or because they wanted it to be on vinyl. So nowadays, all that stuff, they're just like completely non-utilitarian.
Yeah, it's true. What, they're gonna wind up in a mass grave like the E.T. video game.
Yeah. And then somebody will have to spend a bunch of money in 100 years to find the spot where they all got buried and dig them up and sell them all on eBay.
Well, I'm just gonna say that we played it, and I'll edit that in.
Sure, yeah.
That works. So this is off the record. Franklin, I played a couple songs that I brought.
Sure.
What do you have today that you're excited to share?
Well, I brought some weirder stuff out. Well, we were talking earlier about, this is a guy I like. How long have you been listening to my show?
Since pretty early on. I'd say it was in like late 2018, 2019.
Okay. So
yeah.
you know Buddy Pruitt then?
Yeah.
He's a guy I play, yeah. Yeah, he's a dude who was I've kind of contacted his family. I've talked to some of his family through email. I'd like to talk to them more, but he was a guy who ran a oil company in Fort Smith, Arkansas, and he kind of did country music on the side. I get the feeling that early on he was doing country music as a career, and then slowly he realized it was kind of like a side gig because he has a few things on like some bigger labels, but then everything past a certain point is on his own record label called Derrick Records, as in Oil Derrick. So I'm gonna play "You Can Bet Your Bottom Dollar," which is like, what? Do you listen to much Bob Dylan? Are you familiar with Dylan?
Yeah, I've heard of that
Dylan
guy.
and stuff.
Robert Zimmerman.
Yeah. So on Desire, the album Desire, the sound of like the fiddle is like really. There's something about the sound of the fiddle on Desire.
Yeah, that's one of the albums I like best. So,
yeah, it just like sounds really good. I feel like this song reminded me of that fiddle sound, and you don't hear that in like country music that often, and it just like struck a chord with me, and I from that point on collected every possible Buddy Pruitt thing I could find. So I'm going to play this one.
Awesome.
It's kind of dark for like a country song.
I rambled all around this country and worked in every oil field town. My only plan is just a one-night stand. I guess I'll never settle down. We drill for oil and gas in the mountains, on the plains and the deep blue sea. At this stage, you couldn't be my age. It's the mileage that you're wearing me. And you can bet your bottom dollar now from A to Z, ain't nothing but the mileage that's a wearing me. I fell in love out in Vegas with the prettiest gal I've ever seen. She told me I'm the only one she's been searching for. She's wearing a big diamond ring. I bought me a trailer house in Texas just to save a little on the rent. But she can spend more money than a riverboat gambler, and that's the way my money goes. And you can bet your bottom dollar now from A to costing me. There's gonna be a new day this evening, if that sweet thing is ever coming home. She's not the gal for the grieving, but her easy riding will be gone. I'm going on back to the country. Now to her that don't mean a thing. There be no pale blue lights or the honky-tonk fight, or a high-tone woman with a big diamond ring. And you can bet your bottom dollar now from A to Z, that pretty woman won't be costing me. And you can bet your bottom dollar now from A to Z, that pretty woman won't be costing me.
Wow, the production on that is incredible. So so in a league of its own. That's,
Yeah, it's got a really it just doesn't sound like a lot of other stuff that I've heard.
yeah, super ethereal. I totally get that Desire fiddle
Yeah.
comparison too.
Yeah, I got that in a box from, where did I get that? I think it was in a box from Texas. I buy bulk boxes from a lot of other collectors, and I think that came in a box. And I asked the dude, like, "Hey, what's up with this record? Do you know anything about it?" He was like, "Nope, don't know anything about it." And it was just like, "Okay, I guess I'm gonna have to figure it out."
Yeah, yeah, that's how it was for me with the Edna Gibson thing. I went back to the store that I bought it from on the way
Yeah.
back home, and she's like, "I never, no idea." And like, I looked her up and found out that yeah, she did live in Cave Junction, Oregon, and was maybe survived by a son who had moved to Miami, and
Huh.
and he also passed away like since I started trying to get in touch with somebody who might just like at least have a story about her. Um, so you got pretty far. You know he was an oil baron and
Yeah. Yeah, well, actually, it's kind of a weird coincidence, but a buddy of mine who goes by Western Red does a show out of Fort Smith, Iowa, or sorry, Fort Smith, Arkansas, which is where Buddy Pruitt's from.
you're talking
And
about
so
if
he,
that ain't country, yeah.
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 And so I'm pretty close with him. We text quite a bit, and this is before I knew him actually at all, really. But he messaged me and was like, "Hey," he would message me about every couple shows and be like, "Hey, here's a few things that could I get rips of or whatever," and I'd make copies and send them down. And he was like, "Hey, that Buddy Pruitt thing, like that's from the town I'm in. Can you like send me some information about it and I'll try to find out?" And he put up a thing on there. He works for like a classic country radio station, and he put up a post on Facebook that was like, "Hey, this guy's a local guy. Anybody know anything about him?" And I think his grandson maybe, or like great cousin or something, mentioned him. And yeah, from there I kind of got a hold of a few people and asked a few questions. But they yeah, commonly what happens is people don't use email as much as me. And so like I'll email them and they might email back. And really I should just call them on the phone, and I never do because I just feel weird calling somebody to ask them about their lives, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I got some information about them, about Mr. Pruitt. I think I'm almost positive he's passed away now, but yeah, he did a handful of records and has a business down there that's still there. I think the Pruitt Oil Company is still there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Shout out to Pruitt Oil.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Cool. Yeah, you sell boxes of records off too to like for storage
I do.
reasons.
Yeah. Yeah, for storage reasons and also just to make a little bit of extra money for the show.
Yeah.
And also I'm a big part of the show for me is like community building and creating connections with people, and I really like to interact with fans and people who like the show. So I think that's kind of a way to send records to somebody that came from me that they can look at, and it's only like $25 or $30. So it's like, I hope to think they think it's fun and that it's like a connection to the show for them, you know?
Yeah, I think so. I should probably get one of those.
I could make you one up, I'm sure.
All right.
I have plenty. But yeah, I just you know, when you do what I do, you have a lot of records and you got to get rid of some of them sometimes.
Yeah. I had a yard sale last summer that was only records.
Nice.
That was a pretty fun way to do it.
I actually have like a weird tape from Olympia called Go Olympia, I think.
The walking tour of Olympia.
Yeah.
I saw you posted that also on your YouTube channel. I've heard of that tape, and I know some of the people on it, but I had actually never heard it. And I was listening to. I think I listened to the first side.
Yeah.
It's got some really cool, special stuff on there.
I know there's some artists that, according to Discogs, that's like the only thing they ever recorded and stuff. And then some other artists who are in some bigger bands and stuff. But yeah, it seems pretty cool. I contacted that. I sell my tapes at Rainy Day Records there.
Oh yeah. They give in-kind support to Low Profile.
Oh, nice.
We're in cahoots.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I hit them up about the tape too, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we like never see those." Like, I don't know how one ended up in Kansas City or in Lawrence, Kansas, in a free box of tapes, but I took it home and never got rid of it because I was like, "This seems like kind of important or like interesting."
Yeah, I bet my friend Ben Cap left it there. He's
Could
from
be.
Lawrence and lives in Olympia.
Yeah,
back and forth a few times.
I have a few friends who went to Evergreen there.
Yeah, it's a small world.
Yeah. Also, aren't Wolves in the Throne Room from Olympia?
Yeah. They live in this or at least they used to live in this old dilapidated Grange Hall that's painted black. Yeah, covered in moss.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, they're like, so for being so serious, they're like such a serious band that it's almost cartoonish.
Yeah, I get that feeling about them as well. I've seen them live a couple times, and like the things they do on stage, like they won't start playing until somebody like blows a bunch of sage around, and it's just like,
yeah,
all right, dudes, like you're dressing up like people from the 18th century and playing black metal. Like it's not just like, come on. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Hey, somebody's got to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
They're filling that void.
Yeah. And the buddy of mine who went up there to go to college also was in a band called Hail Seizures.
Oh, yeah. I've seen them before, back when they were around when I first moved here. 15 years ago.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I think they played in my basement.
I bet they played in a lot of basements.
Mm-hmm.
They seemed like a basement kind of band.
Yeah. Yeah, man. And you had a death metal or kind of a stoner metal band.
Yeah.
That's the Gnarly Davidson.
Gnarly Davidson.
Which I guess that name I was trying to look up a little more, and that name's been appropriated by CeeLo Green.
That's right.
That's
that was
alter ego.
That was the whole thing. Yeah, I don't know if he's still using it or what, but yeah, we had that name before him, and then he showed up, and we had to contact a lawyer and get a copyright on the name, and which I don't even know if we needed to do or not, but we did, and it cost a lot of money, and then that was a whole weird thing. But yeah, we that was like my touring stoner metal band for a while before I moved here. It's actually how I met my wife and how I ended up in Cleveland.
Oh wow!
We toured through Cleveland and I met her, and yeah, we ended up here. My band is the other two guys still live in Lawrence, but yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, what did you play in that?
Played drums.
Oh, okay, cool, fun.
Mm-hmm.
What else you got today on the
let's see,
on the turntables?
Well, I got. Do you want to go like really weird or not really weird?
We
I kind of have both.
we can get weird. I mean, we got as much time as we need.
Okay.
So
Well, let's do this one. You probably heard this one too. This is the Swamp Guinea Legend by Christy Burroughs. It's a record that is about a restaurant that used to be in Georgia. I think it's closed now.
The Swamp Guinea Legend. In the early 1800s, my great-grandpa used to sit my pa on his knee and tell him this story. He said, son, in the olden days, your very living depended on hunting, fishing, and farming. See that lake out there? That's the very place where my pa shot and winged the swamp guinea, but it fell into the water. He waded out in the water, and while fetching it back to the bank, he stepped in quicksand. He had the swamp guinea in his hand, and as he was seeking, a catfish lodged into his mouth. When the inquest was held, it couldn't be determined whether his death was caused by the swamp guinea or the fish which lodged into his mouth. The tools and antiques which hang on the wall are the very ones which my great-grandpa willed to our family. One day when my pa and ma were just about at a rose end, a welfare woman from the city came down to visit. When she saw the old farming tools and antiques, she was really carried away. The very next day, she came back and brought lots of city slickers with her. Right away, they wanted to buy some of the antiques, but Pa told them no, Grandpa would turn over in his grave if I ever sold any of his things. For the next week or two, so many folks came down to look, so Pa thought we ought to build a shack and put them in and charge people to look at them. Yet Ma said, no, that wouldn't be right. Let's just feed them a mess of catfish while they're here. So from this developed the Swamp Guinea Fish Lodge.
Isn't that insane?
what a great backstory to the restaurant. This is all. Yeah, you do not expect it to end up where it goes.
Well, like I looked up Swamp Guinea and I was like, is that like a like is that like the Mothman of Georgia? Is that like a weird thing?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Or like, and then I wasn't sure, like, is it like some sort of weird like anti-Italian thing? Because Italians are called guineas. And then, but like, no, it just like seems to be unique to this restaurant. And like they have, I guess they used to sell these at the restaurant as like the legend. The other side is called Bend a Swamp Guinea, and it's actually like about the restaurant. But it's like, yeah,
Wow.
what a weird fucking thing.
Yeah. So they just decide to feed him a mess of catfish.
Yeah, that's right. To like look at these old tools on the wall or something.
Yeah, which
like,
they
all
were
right,
like,
whatever.
"Oh, we're gonna keep the tools, keep the antiques to ourselves.
Yeah.
But here, have some fish.
Yeah. But it's like I feel like that's kind of the charm of like country music as opposed to some other, I think blues and country music are kind of very similar in that role, that it's just like that was like the generic genre of music that people would tell stories over for many
Yeah.
years.
Mm-hmm.
So like, yeah, anything that's like this or like a historical thing or folk too, like somebody wanted to just tell the story of something, they'd be like, all right, well, let's just put some country music behind it or some blues music behind it or whatever, depending. I mean, back in the day, mostly depending on racial lines, I think, was if you did blues or country. But it's just like, I think that's kind of where the charm comes from. It's like, it was the generic music of America for like 100 years.
Yeah.
So it's like, unlike soul or like like electro or boogie or any sort of other like danceable collectible music, like country has such a gigantic amount of stuff to find.
Yeah.
Like it's not going to be completely dug out for so many more years. Like it's just going to take forever.
It's a very deep well. Yeah.
Yeah.
You ever get into the Waffle House jukebox?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you have any of those? those
I definitely have one. I had a CD compilation for a while
Okay.
that we would listen to on tour, and I think my bandmates were like, we can't listen to this anymore. But yeah, I love that idea that like they just would have songs about their food on their jukebox.
Yeah, it was a jukebox full of 45s about the Waffle House.
Yeah, and it was on Waffle House Records, which is like had their logo on it. Yeah, those are cool. Unfortunately, those are like people post them online for like more than I think they should really cost.
Yeah.
I kind of think of those as like $5 or $6 45s, and people tend to think people who are selling them, I think of them as $20 or $30 45. So I don't end up buying a lot of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's interesting. I mean, Holiday Inn had a label too.
Yeah.
But it wasn't songs about Holiday Inn, which would be cool. I kind of wish they were, but they were just
Yeah.
like they had like some
like-
garage and soul and country stuff.
Mood music.
Yeah, I don't exactly know. I'd be interested to know the history behind Holiday Inn Records. Like, why did they do that?
Yeah. Well, I wanted to share this song that it's an acetate that I found at that same thrift store in Houston where I got the Square Dance record.
Oh, cool.
I got a few blank acetates because my buddy Mike Dixon, hi Mike, he has record lathes, and so I was like, oh, I'll get these blank lacquers and I can put whatever I want on them. And then this one it had no information on it. One side's blank and the other side has this seemingly live take. I'm assuming it's a band or artist from Houston because that's where I found it. And I wrote a title on it, The Fast Talking Kind, because that's what he says. And he just has some very strong opinions about New York town.
Yeah.
Not New York
Classic.
City, but New York town. So,
Yeah.
you want to roll that?
Yeah, sure.
Cool.
You want me to play it? Actually play it?
Yeah. I think
Yeah, I will.
to feel
All right.
it.
Here goes. Do you hear that?
Watch out for the fast talking kind. They'll worm their way into the mind. They'll promise you $1 and then take your last dime. So watch out for the fast talking kind. Watch out if you go into your town. It'll beat you right into the ground. All that concrete and steel might seem unreal, but it's hard and it's cold underground.
Love that steel.
Watch out for the bright city lights. They'll seduce you into staying a while. But take it from me, you'll never be free. It's the sake of my country life. Watch out if you go to New York town. It'll beat you right into the ground. All that concrete and steel might seem unreal,
Well, you might find a friend in New York, but most likely you'll stay all alone. You know you can't drink the water, can't breathe the air. Whatever made you leave home. Watch out if you go to New York town. It'll beat you right into the ground. All that concrete and steel might seem unreal. It's hard and it's cold underground. Hey, if I move to New York,
Yeah, that's great.
come visit me
I like the idea that you wouldn't be able to drink the water in New York.
or breathe the air. But yeah,
Oh wait, just a second. I just all right, sorry, what'd you say?
yeah, breathing the air, that's one thing. But yeah, the water also is.
It's like it's not like you're visiting Mexico. Like you're
Yeah.
gonna like get sick from the water or something.
Yeah, whoever that guy is, bless him. And I love the like pained harmonies on there. Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's long too. It's long for a country song. It's like 4 minutes long.
Yeah, I thought the Dollar Country constituents might appreciate that tune.
Yeah, definitely. I actually am kind of I have a buddy who lives in Houston. Maybe I'll contact about that. Problem is Houston's pretty big.
Mhm.
But I mean, I would imagine that there would, if you could get a rough idea of the date, you might be able to find a rough idea of where it could have been recorded, and that would be a starting point at least.
Right, yeah. Could get like this thing carbon dated, maybe.
Yeah, there's no etching information at all.
Nothing. It's just,
Damn.
yeah. I was surprised. And there's mold on it, on the outside of the cutting area, luckily. The mold doesn't reach into where the grooves are. But it came with mold.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And it's on.
moldy
It's
oldies.
a 10-inch disc.
Yeah, it's a 10-inch lacquer.
Yeah.
So it can't be played too many times or it'll just get right down to the metal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good that you digitized it.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was good. I'm kind of interested by the I mean, country obviously has a stereotype of being kind of conservative and often Republican leaning,
Yeah.
and I don't think that is necessarily as true as a lot of people who don't listen to the genre would think. But I also find it interesting, the common theme of like rural folk versus city folk, and how like the city will like corrupt you, and how like
Yeah.
being in the country won't somehow, even though it totally does. It's just different corruption, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But there's this like us versus them idea about like you know, going to the big city, or like the bright lights, or you know, how that'll like somehow change you.
Yeah. That neon gets under your skin and
That's right. Or
Yeah.
like that's where like all the loose women are or something, and gambling, and it's like as if you can't get into trouble being like in the country or something.
yeah. I noticed, so you made a zine slash mix CD
Yeah, yeah.
about country songs about drugs.
Yes.
And to your point there, all but one of those songs is sort of cautionary tales, kind of misguided cautionary tales. You know,
Yeah.
like somebody smoked a joint once and now they're in their grave, and you know, like
Uh-huh.
that's on the extreme end of things. But there's only one song on there that celebrates weed and whiskey.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's that's another thing about country music is, yeah, there's a lot of cautionary tales, a lot of like don't uh I don't know. Yeah, like don't do this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like it'll hurt you and you'll like regret it, you know.
Yeah.
But the thing is like I would assume almost everybody who sang songs like that didn't do the drugs they were singing about.
Yeah, it
Like, right? Like, I don't think they did.
it seems like that's probably true.
Yeah,
Like,
like the dude who sang the song about LSD and then like killing his family is like, I have taken enough psychedelics myself to know that I don't think I've ever had a violent feeling
no,
while while taking acid ever.
rage is not a common side effect.
Yeah, and it's like but I think a lot of that was uh a lot of that is like in reaction to the news, you know, because like
Mhm.
the Manson people were like taking acid and they killed somebody. So that must be what acid makes you do, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
which is so crazy because like, I mean, that's a pretty specific example.
I wonder if there's any new Florida artists that have cautionary songs about bath salts.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. I mean, who knows? I
I'm,
would like to think so. It probably isn't. It probably isn't in country music though. It's probably in some other form of music.
yeah, yeah, probably so.
But yeah, I love that kind of stuff. But that's also kind of low hanging fruit, you know. I feel like
True.
the one type of country music that will make it outside of all country circles is stuff about like murder and drugs, and people love it, you know.
They do. Oh yeah.
So that's kind of what I think of as like my like crossover stuff or like my intro to dollar country stuff. I play some of that stuff and be like, look, isn't this like crazy? This is good, right? And
Uh-huh.
then I'm like, then I'm like, but also listen to this really good honky tonk song that's not about anything, you know? Like
Uh-huh.
I feel like people when they hear country music, they're like, oh yeah, I don't like that. I know that I know that's a genre I don't like. I don't like country. I don't like rap, like a lot of people say.
I know that's been that's always been a thing. I feel like it's getting a little less so these
Yeah.
days, just because, well, for one thing, the two all the music is sort of like mushing together now,
Mm-hmm.
um, and those worlds have been colliding. But yeah, it's something that I said myself when I was younger. You know,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
I mean, look at me now. I love country. I love hip hop. Like,
Yeah,
it's great.
exactly. Well, I think part of that is that um, country uh, is a really old genre. I mean, it's got like a solid like 100 years going now, and
Hmm.
so um, it's really hard to say. It's almost like it's almost like saying like, what kind of music do you like? And it's like, I like rock music, and it's like, okay, like that's like a million different things, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
And country is the same way, except most people aren't as familiar with it as rock, so they don't think about like which era. They just think about it all as one thing, and they often think about it as like pop country, you know.
hmm
But like
exactly.
but like the stuff that I play on the show is effectively a completely different genre than what is on like country radio now. It doesn't really share much, if anything, except for like maybe some like super old school ideals about like politics or country life basically,
Yeah,
but like it's not the same. So it I feel like country as a genre is like so stuck in the past and has so much baggage for those sorts of reasons.
yeah,
um so trying to get people to listen to the show, I kind of try to frame it. I don't know. Yeah, it's always kind of hard because people immediately want to be like, oh, I don't really like country music, and it's like, well, if you like interesting music, you might like what I play, because I
yeah,
I try to just think of it as like, this is just like interesting American history stuff, you know?
yeah, yeah. It's very good for people who are just interested in history or interesting things. It's a great place to go to find that.
Yeah, I like to think
Yeah.
so.
You said you had some not so weird stuff, like some you got something like sentimental or something pretty that you were gonna play.
I don't know. I don't know how. Let me see what I got here.
Okay.
This is actually the next mixtape I'm working on. Is all stuff from the Ozarks.
Oh wow.
But yeah, I have some less weird stuff, kind of. I mean,
I don't. I you can go all out.
go wherever. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
hard to say. I feel I have like over 3,000 records in the Dollar Country like archives now, so it's like kind of hard to even know where to start sometimes. But I'm gonna
Yeah.
play this song by Buford Foster.
I love that name.
Yeah, that's a real country name.
Yeah.
This is from the Lake of the Ozarks. It's called the Lake of the Ozarks Anthem, which is another thing I like about country music. Is kind of like the Swamp Guinea one. Is like I love when people have a song that is like very hyper local specific. Like this is about this one thing. This is where I'm from. You can get this record from this place because that's what it's about. And it's just
Yeah.
like, all right, hell yeah. So this is, yeah, Buford Foster.
Come to the Lake of the Ozarks, spend your vacation. Well, it's the spot of the nation. Oh, yes, sirree. And leave behind all your trouble. Come running on the double. We're gonna make you happy as you can be. You might wanna go a-fishing or take it easy. You might want to go a-boating or water ski. And no work or no worry, and no burdens to carry. We're gonna make you happy as you can be. So come to the Lake of the Ozarks, spend your vacation. Well, it's the spot of the nation, yeah. Oh, yes, sirree. No work or no worry, no burdens to carry. We're gonna make you happy as you can be.
That's a great endorsement.
Yeah, totally.
So you DJ at like bars or parties or something like that too? You have like a regular gig or did? Yeah.
I did have a regular thing before COVID, and I kind of do things here or there. I kind of do whenever somebody asks me. I'll just do it for the most part. But it's there's a local bar here, the Little Rose, that everything got all screwed up by COVID. So
Yeah.
I was doing like a monthly or bi-monthly thing, or every other month thing, and then now that they are opening back up more, I think they're up to like 4 days a week now. I started doing a thing there. There's another bar here that I do things for, but yeah, I'm kind of like, yeah, anybody who will have me, really, I'm willing to play in town.
Yeah.
It's just a way to get out and play these tunes. It's kind of, you know, I think about it as like funnels everywhere. Like I try to have all these different places people can find my show from.
Yeah.
So that's just one of many, but yeah, I was actually recently reaching out to people, I'm sure you saw, to try to like get out of town and play places. I think that'd be cool to like go to other cities or travel around, or maybe the Pacific Northwest. I had some people in California who were interested, but you know, getting out there would be kind of expensive.
Yeah.
But I think it'd be cool to like go basically turn my digging trips into something where I don't lose money.
Uh-huh.
And actually like play a few gigs and meet some people and stuff. So yeah, I do it here and there.
It's a great idea. Well, yeah.
It's just hard because it's country music and people, same thing. It's like you have to have a very specific audience to have to get people to dance, but for the most part, people don't want a late night country DJ. So I try to do like happy hour, like 5 to 8, 6 to 9 sort of stuff, where it's like people are sitting down drinking and listening, want to hear some interesting tunes, you know?
Yeah, yeah, that's fun. Well, cool. And I wanted to ask you about so every episode of your show is special in that you're delivering this mixed bag of all this country music treasure.
Mm-hmm.
And then every now and then you do like a thematic episode,
Mm-hmm.
which you just accumulate all these things that somehow are all tied together. And those ones are really fun to listen to as well. And I wanted to talk about the country music Bechdel test.
Oh yeah.
That was a pretty special collection of tunes.
Yeah. I'd love to talk about that.
Yeah, yeah. Tell me about it.
So yeah, so like I think the rest of the country in the past few years, I feel like I've been learning a lot about different points of view of people who are not straight middle-aged white dudes like me. And so I just started to kind of think about country music critically, because country music is a pretty middle-aged white dude sort of viewpoint for a lot of people, or for a lot of its history. And so I was just thinking about, like, first of all, when I'm picking out music for a show, it's very often almost all men, just because the songs by men I find more interesting. And I was wondering why that is. And then I started looking into it, and I realized that almost, like, I bet like half of country music is about relationships, is about like breakups or falling in love or whatever. But songs about women are like 95% just about men, just about relationships, about breaking up or falling in love or whatever. And I realized that the reason my show became so heavy in men's stuff, in men's singers, is because they could sing about everything. And so I had all these songs about history or drugs or war or just anything that wasn't relationships. And I kind of wanted to look further into that. And so the Bechdel test is the test it's for a movie. I guess it's for any sort of movie or book or media or whatever, where it passes the test if there are two named women characters who have a conversation with each other, not about a man, in a movie. I think that's it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm missing something, but
that's about right. So you kind of altered that.
Yeah, so I kind of altered that for country music, and I was like, all right, I'm going to try to find only songs performed or written, preferably, but just performed by women that are not about men in any way. And it was like really hard. Like I looked through, this was a few years ago, so I had less records than I do now, but I looked through a few thousand records. And of course, with my show, I tended to do less major label stuff, so I didn't really play like a lot of like Dolly Parton and stuff, because she does have a lot of stuff that's just about women, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But out of all this stuff, I found like tens of 45s that I could play on the show. And then from there, some of them just weren't very good. And so I picked out, like 16 or whatever. And yeah, it was really hard because these women, I'm sure, were being told by all the men in the room who were running, everything from radio stations to promotions to recording and stuff, that these were the songs they had to do to get airplay, and these are the songs they were supposed to do or whatever. And so women in country music have this like this very tunnel vision view of songs they can do, and it's almost always about men. I just thought that was really fucking lame.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I did that show to kind of point that out, and a lot of people really liked it, and I'm really happy they liked it. I especially had a lot of women mention that they really enjoyed it, because I think women just living in America, at least I know from, my wife's point of view and other women I've talked to, is like, you're just kind of used to the male viewpoint being the main viewpoint on almost everything. So I think women were really happy with that episode, and I was really happy with that episode because I thought it was cool, but it kind of bummed me out in the same way, because I wish I could do another one, but I probably can't. I mean, I might be able to now, but I mean, I looked through thousands of records,
Yeah, I know. It'd be really cool if you could do a weekly show that was that. but
Yeah, it'd be awesome. I mean, I even like early on in my show, my mom would mention to me every time. She was like, "Hey, you didn't play any women on this week's episode," and I'd be like, "Oh shit, you're right."
Mhm.
So I started being like, I need to play. This sounds like this sounds shitty to say, but for a while it was like I need to play at least one woman on the show. So I'd have at least one song, and now I try to do at least three. Like I don't let a show out the door unless it has at least three songs by women. But like even that sometimes is kind of hard because the percentage of if I take a stack of records, if I just grabbed a random stack of records, it's
Mhm.
going to be at least 75% men artists. Just like that's just the way it is with country music back in the day, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just kind of a total bummer because women women have just as many feelings and thoughts and experiences as any man, but like the way that media portrays it and the way that country music portrayed it was just that they were basically like, you know, a foil for men.
Yeah. It's
It's a bummer.
it's a real bummer, and I like to think that you know, there's a shift happening now, and you know,
I think so. I definitely
history's
think so.
history.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it's cool to see you, you know, push the limits though. And
Yeah, I'm trying. I mean, I tried to here, just a second, sorry. I try to yes. I try not to make my show I try not to make my show political because politics is a big turnoff for a lot of people, including myself.
Mhm.
Um, but I try to offer ideas that I think will make the world a better place.
Yeah, I've caught on to that.
Yeah,
I
that's
saw.
where that's where the be nice people out there comes from. You know what I mean?
Mhm. And I saw you on your live stream once where you were playing some old 78s, and you put on a track, and in the middle of the song you just like you turned it off because it was like from World War II era or something. They were saying something mean about Japan.
Yeah, I think they referred to Japanese as Japs or something, and
Yeah.
suggested that they yeah, it was a song about the nuclear bomb, and uh it portrayed the Japanese people as possibly having deserved it. And so I was like, all right, I'm not gonna play this one.
Yeah, and I really appreciate the thought you put into those
Yeah, but
choices.
I think that we are, I mean, not to get into a political discussion, but um, myself, I am just kind of, uh, my brain just like gets a little softer and smoother every time I have to watch or hear about politics
Hmm.
lately in the past few years, because I feel like it's just like it just makes me feel bad. It just makes me feel sad, you know, that
Yeah.
everybody is so mad at each other for all this stuff. And so I try to the part of be nice to people out there because you never know what kind of day someone else has been having, that is important to me, is because we all get stuck in these like routes where we're like walking from A to B or driving from A to B or going to work or going to the store, and we forget that we're not the main character. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
this isn't a movie about us. I mean, it is in our heads because we are our main character, but we just often forget that like there are other people out there who are having just as much shit going on in their lives as we are, and we often don't even think about them as other people. They're just like robots in our world, you know, like
Yeah.
that character from Kurt Vonnegut, Kilgore Trout.
Hmm.
um
Hmm.
and so the part that I hope affects people in their political brains is to think about other people as being just like us, and we're all coming from a point of view where we've lived our lives, and people who are evil, people who we think are not evil people. They're under the influence of evil. You know what I mean? Everybody can do bad things, everybody can do good things. And so just because somebody does a lot of bad things doesn't mean they're a bad person. They can do good things. It's just about like, you know, trying to understand where people are coming from and being open to talk to them and understanding that they're dealing with their own shit as well. And so those are the sorts of ideals I try to spread on the show, because I think once you make it about politics or about issues that people are thinking about, a lot of people shut off and a lot of people go into like, oh, he's talking about this. My opinion on that is this. And I've known that for years. And so I think when you deconstruct it and present it just as like human feelings and emotions, it is a lot, it's a lot more relatable.
Yeah.
And people start thinking about it again. Like I was watching a documentary about the flying spaghetti monster the other day. And one of the
it's like a little religious cult that got started.
Yes,
that's good enough to go off of.
Yeah.
For context.
Pastafarians, and it started off as an idea that is just as plausible as religion, because of something. But anyway, the point is that one guy was talking, and he was like a scientist or whatever, or like a lawyer, and he was like, the thing I don't like about religion is it stops people from thinking, because people think like, oh, I'm this religion and my religion thinks this, and so this is what I think about that. Yeah. And I'm not talking shit on people who are religious right now, but I think that's kind of a common thing with politics too, is like, I'm this sort of politics person. You're talking about this issue and I feel this way about that issue, and you kind of turn off your brain and don't have to think about it. And so it's kind of the same thing. Once you deconstruct those into being like, oh shit, I'm like a human person dealing with other humans, and you know, we all have feelings and we all have different experiences, then it becomes like you start thinking about it again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have to break it down into its individual parts to be able to construct it in a positive way again.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the country music that you play doesn't come from a hive mind. It's all coming from the heart most of the time.
Or if it does, I try to mention it, you know.
Yeah. Man, I think we might ought to wrap this up. Maybe like listen to a few more tunes.
Sure. Do you want to ask me? Do you want to ask you about hamburgers?
You know what? I do. Hey, Franklin.
Yes.
So let's say I'm in Cleveland and I'm going to be going through your neighborhood. I call you up and I say, hey, I'm going to grab you a burger. What do you want?
My burger? Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm a smash burger kind of guy. I don't like the big giant like half-pound burgers with like a million toppings that are kind of like fancy right now. I understand people like that, and that's fine. But I'm more of like a diner style smash burger that you can eat and then still feel not go into a food coma, you know?
Yep.
So my favorite spot near me is this place called Sal's, which is just a diner. But for whatever, it's like, I don't know why, but there are certain ingredients on their menu they just seem to spend more on, and their bacon is like really good. Okay. So so sometimes I'll get just a bacon cheeseburger from there, and it's like a you know, super thin patty, bacon cheeseburger with everything on it. They put mayo on it, and they put you know, lettuce, tomato, onion, and it's just like the perfect size to eat and be ready to move. It doesn't slow you down. I think that's my problem with big burgers, is they slow you down.
Oh yeah, so too much.
I can't really do that.
I don't want a burger bigger than my face.
Yeah. But I love hamburgers. Are you familiar with George Motz?
No, tell me about George.
He refers to himself as a burger scholar, and he's like an American regional hamburger specialist. He has a show on YouTube called Burger Scholar. Okay. And me and my wife watch his videos, and he will like be making all these different like regional burgers, because, you know, like, I think it's like country music or like anything else, like different regions have the different things they're used to, and like it's really cool video. because he'll like make this burger from, you know, this one place in North Carolina that has been making this burger for 60 years or whatever, or this one burger from wherever. And I love looking into that kind of stuff because I think like regional food is great.
Yeah, it sure is. Oh, I was a vegetarian for 7 years, and
Yeah?
that was cool. And then one day I got hungry. I went for a club sandwich, and then I was on the burger tip. And,
Yeah, I've been vegan and vegetarian before,
Mhm.
and it was okay. But now they have those Impossible burgers.
Mhm.
Have you had one of those?
Yeah,
I think those are really good.
they are good. Yeah.
I would gladly substitute those for almost any hamburger and be perfectly fine with it.
Mhm.
When I was a vegetarian, they did not have those, so it was always like black bean or garden burger, and
Yeah.
those just don't taste like burgers.
Not at all.
No.
I mean, they're good for what they are, but you shouldn't call it that.
Right. They're good. But it's a different thing. It's not a
Yeah.
hamburger.
Yeah. Well, I was wondering, have you ever heard this Supernatural Family Band?
Yeah, I am familiar. I think they're from San Antonio. Is that right?
They were originally from, well, it's Tommy Hancock, who's considered like one of the fathers of Texas country.
That's right.
So he grew up in Lubbock, Texas, and did a lot of. He like owned the Cotton Club there,
Okay.
and eventually he sold the Cotton Club, which was like a hot spot for country, rock, blues, all kinds of music. And he moved his family to New Mexico, and they started a family band.
Cool.
And like the other, like Jimmy Dale Gilmore is on this record as well. Like he sings a tune. But I want to play a song that is sung by Tommy's son Louie, and it's called Bluebird. I've heard Emmylou Harris do a version of this tune. There's probably a few other versions floating out there, but it's got some really pretty. Like there's a harp on it. You don't hear a harp in a lot of country music, and it's a live concert recording as well.
Cool.
Recorded in Lubbock on Akashic Records, 1978. So they were still living in New Mexico at the time. But
yeah, and Akashic, I think Akashic is that their label?
I feel like it must be.
I always wondered. Supernatural Family Band sounds like the name of a cult.
Yeah, doesn't it?
Like, so whenever I saw their records, I was always like kind of expecting some sort of like drugged out hippie country, but it's not really. It's like
no.
It's not straight ahead, but it's just like pretty solid kind of country rock sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you want to play the Bluebird is what you're talking about?
Yeah. Can we hear Bluebird, and then you wanna follow that up with a closer?
Yeah, sure. Let me throw it on.
If you were a bluebird, you'd be a sad one. I'd give you a true word, but you've already had one. If you were a bluebird, you'd be crying, flying home. If you were a raindrop, you'd shine like a rainbow. If you were a train stop, the conductor would sing low. If you were a raindrop, you'd be falling, calling home. If you were a hotel, you'd be a grand one. If you hit a slow spell, do you think you could stand one? If you were a hotel, I'd lean on your doorbell, call you my home. If I was a highway, I'd stretch alongside you. I'd help you pass byways that have dissatisfied you. If I was a highway, I'd be stretching, fetching you home. If you were a bluebird, you'd be a sad one. I'd give you a true word, but you've already had one. If you were a bluebird, you'd be crying, flying home.
Cool. I'm gonna go right into this one.
All right.
Over a drink, for those who think young, I got the sad news. While having lunch, Billy walked in, told me goodbye. He wanted his ring back, for he told me there'd be no wedding this year. Billy broke my heart at Walgreens, and then I cried all the way to Sears. I hear my boss still laughing at me, but I don't blame him. Silly of me for asking of him, may I go home? Well, this could be the funniest heartbreak of the year. Billy broke my heart at Walgreens, and then I cried all the way to Sears. What made the pain more painful? I hurt each step of the way. Traffic light and fears, 20 blocks of tears getting in my way. I'd fall down, then I'd get up while slipping on my tears. Billy broke my heart at Walgreens, and then I cried all the way to Sears. I'd fall down, then I'd get up while slipping on my tears. Billy broke my heart at Walgreens, and then I cried all the way to Sears.
What the hell was that?
Ruby Wright. You see that?
Is that on Stop Records?
Oh, it's on Recording Industry Corp.
Wow.
Billy broke my heart at Walgreens, and I cried all the way to Sears by Ruby Wright.
Oh my God! Why does hearing the name of a store make me laugh when I hear the
don't
song?
know. Well, and also it's like such a serious, like they broke up or whatever.
It's a sad song, but then
Yeah.
you throw in these brands, and and that sounded like Pete Drake in there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was Pete Drake on the the Talking Steel.
Yeah. Wow. That's a heavy production. So like,
Yeah, that's good. That was produced by Grady Martin, so I'm sure that's the Nashville A-Team on there.
yep, it sounded like it to me. Goodness gracious. What a way to go out. Franklin, thank you so much for hanging and doing this.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Really nice to have some insight into your beautiful machine.
Yeah, I'm always happy to talk about it.
Yeah. Well, Franklin, be nice to people out there, would you?
Hey, you too.
All right.
And if you see Wolves in the Throne Room, say they tell them about my show.
I will. I'll tell them all
If
about
you see
it.
a bunch of guys in black leather walking around, black vegan leather.
Yep. Oh, I know. All right, will do.
All right, later, man.
All right, later.